also better governance on the part of the SL government. Thank you.
我現在會請5位官員發言。政務司司長。
I will now invite the 5 public officers to speak. Chief Secretary for Administration. President, I thank members for putting forward different views in this segment. Now, I will make key responses in terms of the implementation of one country, two systems principle and reorganization of the government structure. With the implementation of the Hong Kong national security law and the improved electoral system, we have returned to stability and then prosperity. Society is once again safe and stable. We have conducted the 2 elections of the Election Committee Subsector and the Legislative Council General Election, successfully implementing the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. We have returned to the right track of the one country, two systems principle. In the past month, in different meetings, council members have brought voices of different people from different classes of the society, different trades and professions to the council. Members have been pragmatic in taking care of the interests of the community. Our democracy has been improved, showing positive interaction between the executive and the legislative branch. We no longer see a hurling of insults, personal attacks, smearing, filibustering, and incessant quorum calls, which disrupts order. Now, the government is adhering closely to the basic law. The government will fulfill its constitutional responsibility and engage and start work on legislation of Article 23 within this year. And also, we will continue to arrange for oath-taking of public officers in accordance with the Hong Kong NSL and promote the constitution of the country, basic law, and the Hong Kong national law. Later on, different officials will speak in length in terms of national safety aspects. I will focus on the restructuring of the Hong Kong SAR government structure. The government structure has to move ahead with time. We have to govern in a focused manner and respond to the community's need. This is important for good governance. On the 12th last month, the chief executive has proposed the reorganization arrangements, and relevant secretaries have listened to members' views. Generally speaking, we have support from Legislative Council members and members of the public. Concerning the proposal to increase the number of policy bureaus from 13 to 15, there are 2 major goals. First, we need to have dedicated policy bureaus to implement major policies of the government. Second, we have to rationalize the structure of the government to even out the portfolios and concentrate different portfolios under one bureau with clear functions. The problems we face are multifold and complicated. Despite the rationalization proposal, cross-departmental collaboration is needed. Under the proposal, the Chief Secretary for Administration will supervise 9 bureaus, while the Financial Secretary will supervise 6 bureaus, including the Housing Bureau, Development Bureau, and the Transport and Logistics Bureau, which will be responsible for building houses and identifying lands. The next term of the government will also consider creating the position of Deputy Secretary to enhance high-level and cross-departmental and cross-bureau collaboration. Under the proposal, 4 bureaus will be dedicated to the promotion of integration with the 14th Five-Year Plan. On the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, it will take up the portfolio including culture and arts, movies, creative industries, sports and tourism. synergy can be created between these industries, and also it will help the integration of different cultures and arts, consolidating our role as a cultural center. I'm happy to hear that Mr. Ma Pong Kwok, Mr. Kenneth Fok, and members from other sectors showing the support for this proposal. Now, on the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, after the restructuring, the Bureau can focus on commerce and trade and focus on enhancing our status as the international trade center under the 14th Five-Year Plan, as well as developing Hong Kong into the regional trading center of international products. Also, many SMEs engaging in trade have been hard hit by the Sino-US trade friction, as well as the COVID-19 epidemic. The Bureau will continue to roll out supportive measures to help SME to seize the opportunities brought about by the National Dual Circulation Strategy. The Bureau, the Innovation and Technology Bureau will be renamed the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau. It is to reflect that we will have a focus on reindustrialization. We will strive to establish an I&T industry chain, including introducing advanced manufacturing industries in the Sun Tin Techno Loop in the Northern Metropolis, to create a more comprehensive ecosystem for I&T and consolidate our status as an international I&T hub under the 14th Five-Year Plan. The proposal is welcomed by the sectors. The Transport and Housing Bureau will be split into two. The transport portfolio will be put under the Transport and Logistics Bureau. The Bureau will be responsible for study concerning local and cross-boundary infrastructure projects and territory-wide strategic transport studies so as to enhance our position as an international aviation and maritime and logistics hub. It is in line with the expectation of society as well as Mr. Frankie Yick's suggestion. Also, the following bureaus will be restructured so that they can focus on livelihood issues. The Housing Bureau. Having a home is the wish of every Hong Kong people. After the restructuring, the Housing Bureau will speed up construction of public housing. The Secretary for Housing will focus on supervising the new policies, the new measures of the Housing Authority and the Housing Department, and timely review and adjust these strategies to tie in with other public institutions. Some political parties suggest combining the Housing and Development Bureau. However, this will make the portfolio too heavy, and it is not desirable to combine the Housing Bureau with the Planning and Lands branch of the Development Bureau. Currently, the Planning and Lands branch and the Works branch under the Development Bureau and the Planning Department, Lands Department, and CDD have established synergy. Splitting the branches will affect developments of land. After the restructuring, the Medical and Health Bureau will focus on medical and health policies, including implementing the 10 years hospital development plan, setting up the blueprints for primary healthcare development, reviewing public health strategies, and addressing the shortage of medical manpower. Also, in line with the 14th Five-Year Plan, the Bureau will actively take forward the work to develop the health technology industry. Many political parties and members, including the DAB, Liberal parties, and Mr. Tony Jia, supported the direction of the restructuring so that the Bureau can focus on medical and health policies and dealing with the epidemic. The Environment Bureau will be expanded to become the Environment and Ecosystem Bureau to take charge of policies including environmental hygiene, food safety, agriculture and fisheries, as well as livestock. The sustainable development policies, including reducing waste and implementing MSB charging, synergy has been achieved. Some members suggest that the municipal hygiene should be subsumed under the HAB. However, we do try to avoid splitting bureaus. At present, district council, we only have very few district council members. That's why the district councils are not fulfilling its functions. The next term of the government will review on how to promote a local administration. Home Affairs and Youth Bureau. After the restructuring, the Bureau will focus on district affairs and chart a comprehensive youth development blueprint. Also, the Bureau will be responsible for reviewing the direction of district councils. Time is limited. I am unable to address every point, but please continue to put forward your views to the government. After consolidating the views, we will convey the views for the Chief Executive consideration. This time of the government will collaborate with legislators in any legislation work so that the new structure can start running in the next term. Thank you.
Secretary for Justice. First of all, I would like to thank members for their invaluable comments. I will now briefly respond to members on the different subjects. The rule of law and judicial independence are the cornerstones of Hong Kong's success. Any attempt to destroy this judicial independence or rule of law will not go unpunished. The Department of Justice will continue to perform our duties as a public prosecutor. We will provide professional and independent legal advice to the government to make sure justice is done. On the promotion of the Constitution, Basic Law, and the National Security Law, in April the 4th and the 28th of May, the Department of Justice will be hosting two legal conferences separately. That is the one Basic Law, moving from stability to prosperity, and National Security Law, thriving with security. The Department of Justice also published articles and reference materials on the National Security Law, the Basic Law 30th Anniversary Legal Summit Back to Basics Proceedings, National Security Law Legal Forum Security Brings Prosperity Proceedings, and also Basic Law selected drafting materials and significant cases. There is also an electronic publication for the public. A bulletin on the Basic Law is still in publication. This was mentioned by some members, and the latest article is on security brings prosperity. So we believe all these publications will provide authoritative materials for reference for the public, so they could get an understanding of the Basic Law, National Security Law, and so on. Under rule of the Vision 2030 for rule of law, we will continue to promote rule of law education. We have various measures in place, such as the Studio DOJ for the public, quiz competitions for primary students, rule of law enlightenment program for secondary students, a rule of law journey, and key to the future short video competition, and so on. We also provide electronic teaching materials to teachers. Safeguarding national security is the constitutional duty of the Hong Kong SAR. On the implementation of the national security law, the Department of Justice has 3 tasks. 1, we have to take up criminal prosecution against cases violating the national security law. And secondly, we deal with civil proceedings and judicial review cases. And then thirdly, on the implementation of Articles 6, 7, 9, and 10 of the National Security Law, the Department of Justice will provide professional legal advice to relevant departments on their policy matters. But implementing the national security law alone is not enough. We must finish the legislative exercise for Article 23 of the Basic Law. This is the constitution of SAR clearly provided for in the Basic Law, and also in paragraphs in the relevant MPCSC decision, that is the May 28th decision, and also in Article 7 of the National Security Law there is such requirement. So the Department of Justice will provide independent legal advice and also draft the relevant law in accordance with the instructions. Some members pointed out that in Hong Kong we need to go for an adaptation exercise, which is to remove the colonial elements in our laws. The Law Reform Commission Secretariat will carry out the task, and they are the leading party in this exercise. We have already identified over 60 pieces of principal ordinance that would require adaptation. We have also written to the Relevant Policy Bureau to start communication on how we should proceed with the adaptation. We welcome supervision from the Council, and we will report progress to you from time to time. Hopefully we'll be able to complete this task which has been outstanding for over 20 years. Some members pointed out that the system in Hong Kong is not the same as that on mainland. It may lead to problems. Well, that's exactly because there are differences in the two systems that go to demonstrate the advantage of one country, two systems. These differences will not stand in the way of the development of the two places, because we have judicial assistance, where also other exchange activities on expanding the market. We have started all this effort, and then we could also provide more professional training. Now, on opportunities in the Greater Bay Area, first of all, we've already for solicitors and barristers who have passed the first GBA legal professional examination, they have started online training with Guangdong law firms, and the second examination will be held in June this year. And then the third Guangdong Hong Kong Macau Greater Bay Area Legal Departments Joint Conference also adopted the GBA Mediator Accreditation Standards and GBA Mediator Code of Conduct best practice. This will help to promote the professionalization of mediators in the Greater Bay Area. To build a better legal assistance system for civil and commercial matters, the arrangement of reciprocal recognition and enforcement of civil judgments in matrimonial and family cases was given effect through local legislation this month. And also we have completed a public consultation on the arrangement on the implementation of the arrangement on reciprocal recognition and enforcement judgments in civil and commercial matters. We'll be presenting the bill to this council in the second quarter. And then Hong Kong is to become an arbitration center, and then we should bring international conferences to Hong Kong with the support of the Central People's Government. The 59th annual meeting of the 47-member Asian African Legal Consultative Organization will be held in Hong Kong for the first time. We will also be hosting the third working group meeting. We'll also be holding the hosting the meeting or the intersessional meeting of Working Group 3 of the UNCITRAL, United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, and trade law. And then also we're going to establish the AALCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center in Hong Kong. And then the Department of Justice has worked with the Tsinghua University to organize the Fundamental Principles of Chinese Law seminar course. The course, some 200 government councils have been trained, and then the course is also open to private practitioners. And there is a professional exchange program too. And do we want to broaden the international perspective for local lawyers? So we have reached agreements with many international organizations, so they could lawyers from both the private and public sectors could be seconded to these international organizations. Some members talked about the development of the legal profession. Well, our current system is for the professions to supervise themselves. I understand that legal professional bodies are formulating new rules, and then with the approval of the final Court of Final Appeal, then the new rules will come into effect. We have received, when we receive the draft rules, we will consider the format and the construction of these rules. Now, the national security law and the improvement of the electoral system fully show that we have now established a constitutional order. The community must have a correct understanding of our constitutional order and the national security concept so that we could have steadfast and successful implementation of one country, two systems. Thank you.
Secretary for Security. President, enactment of the national security law marked a new milestone in the SL's work to safeguard national security. Since its promulgation on the 30th of June 2020, the Security Bureau, the police, and together with other relevant discipline services have carried out a number of operations to successfully prevent and stop many acts that would endanger Hong Kong and the nation's security. Since the promulgation of the law, as at the 15th of February 2022, a total of 167 have been arrested for endangering national security. Among them, 105 have been prosecuted. Another 5 companies have been prosecuted for suspected contravention of the relevant offences in the NSL. We have taken the following enforcement action. First, we have arrested ringleader Jimmy Lai and his accomplices who endangered national security to effectively prevent them from continuing to abuse press freedom, to engage in anti-China and anti-Hong Kong acts that endanger national security and undermine our prosperity and stability. We have stopped the operation of their brainwashing machinery. Apple Daily and Next Media have been under a formal court winding up order. And we've also made arrests relating to the 25-plus scheme intending to manipulate elections so that they could take up the majority seats in Electoral to paralyze, disrupt, and prevent and undermine those who work for the Hong Kong SL government in accordance with the law. Among them, 47 persons have been charged with conspiracy to commit subversion. 3, we have had a complete crackdown on local terrorism. Since the Black Cloud violence in 2019 to end 2021, LEAs have in total smashed over 20 cases involving explosives, ammunition, and firearms. 6 real guns were involved, and 19 cases involving explosives, including explosives TATP commonly used in terrorist attacks overseas. The police have also neutralized a radical pro-independence organization returning Valiant. They seek to stage bomb attacks at railways and public places like courts to achieve their political goals, and they blatantly ignore the life and limbs of the public. We've also reinvigorated several pieces of legislation. We have invoked the Crimes Ordinance Section 9 and 10 to proactively crack down on soft resistance, such as those who use the Sheep Town series comics to glorify rioters and fugitives, to incite hatred among children towards the government, and that's the General Union of the Hong Kong Speech Therapists. We've also suggested to the Sitting Council to exercise powers under the company's winding up and miscellaneous provision to order the company registrar to deregister Hong Kong Alliance from the registry, and we've also made good use of the implementation rules of Article 43 of the NSL to stop and detect offences that endanger national security. We've frozen $1.1 billion worth of cash, properties, and stock and shares, and many organizations that endanger national security have successively disbanded. These law enforcement actions show that the NSL has been effective in preventing, stopping, and punishing acts that endanger national security. And these results are hard-earned, and we will not be complacent. We must prepare for rainy days, and we will totally examine the national security risks that Hong Kong faces. And there are two types. Western-led by the U.S. have zero-sum mentality. They blatantly targeted crimes. And they take advantage of one country, two system and high degree of autonomy to use espionage activities to disrupt and smear SAR matters, and they undermine national security. They use the media, culture, and arts and to put up soft resistance to trying to endanger our national security. And with our country growing in strength and economy, such espionage and soft resistance are not going to stop. And local terrorism, lone wolves attacks, and in groups such as Returning Valiant, well, these threats will continue. We had a lone wolf stabbing of a police officer come suicide on the 1st of July last year, and I think this will continue to happen, and it shows that the local terrorists are starting to actionize. To tackle these risks, we have a number of measures to prevent, stop, and punish acts that endanger national security. First, on collection of intelligence, we will step up our intelligence gathering and analysis work, in particular those spread online, and also anti-espionage intelligence. We will share such intelligence with other organizations of the country. Second, to enforce the law strictly, and we will tackle persons and organizations that endanger national security. We will carry out in-depth investigation, their sources of revenue, their income and expenses, and their relations with external forces. 3, collaboration between disciplined forces to support the work of the police. Customs and excise will crack down on smuggling of guns and firearms and dangerous goods. The immigration will step up the examination of visa applications and immigration work. The CSD will enhance the management and intelligence work of those jailed, and FSD will guard against dangerous goods and the abuse, and the government flying services will continue to carry out comprehensive support. And fourth, policy bureaus and departments will collaborate together in accordance with Articles 3 and 6 of the NSL. The government, policy bureaus and departments will work together to safeguard national security. For instance, the CEDB has enacted the telecom registration of SIM cards regulation to require real name registration system for SIM cards. And the Film Censorship Amendment Ordinance 2021 have been updated, and the film censorship guidelines for censors also updated to include national security consideration in film censorship, to heighten the awareness of national security through online exhibition of NSL and NS Education Day activities, and also interdepartmental anti-terrorism task force, etc. will also launch a workline and hotline to enhance people's awareness of national security. Since the launching of the hotline, it's been 15 months, and we have received over 210,000 messages, and these are very important to our work. For legislation, we are now very proactively taking forward the legislation of Article 23 in order to discharge our constitutional duty under the Basic Law and NSL. We will, based on studies and information collected in the past, the relevant legal content of the national security and other legislation to safeguard national security, our experience and court judgments, and also experiences from other jurisdictions, and the situation in Hong Kong, will adopt an effective and proactive pragmatic approach, and will try to complete the public consultation work within this time of the government with a view to presenting a bill to the Council in the second half of this year. Besides, cybersecurity is of utmost importance to safeguarding national security and to maintain a safe business environment. While we have individual provisions to tackle individual law-breaking behavior of cybersecurity, we do not have any legislation to cover critical information infrastructure. With increase in cyber attacks, I think we are facing increasing challenges to our critical infrastructure. Should there be any cyber attack or sabotage, our economy, livelihood, public safety, and public security can be at stake. And so, we must enhance cyber security. By means of legislation, must clearly set out the cybersecurity responsibility of operators of critical information infrastructure. That will include setting up a preventive administrative system, a cybersecurity plan, and also safety assessment of information security and information system, computer system, incident contingency scheme, regular drills, and also notification system should there be an incident. The government will start to prepare to legislate on cybersecurity of critical information infrastructure. Our intention is to launch a public consultation exercise within the year. I'm grateful to members for their support of the policy address. Thank you.
Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. President, I'm grateful to members for their opinions put forward during the debate. In today's meeting, I shall give responses in regard of the policy measures set out in the chapter Steadfastly and Successfully Implementing One Country, Two Systems in the Chief Executive's 2021 Policy Address. Earlier on, Hong Kong has encountered unprecedented political challenges. The central authorities have made two major moves comprising the promulgation and implementation of the Law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in the Hong Kong SAR and improving the electoral system to put the implementation of one country, two systems back on the right track. To ensure the robustness of the one country, two systems principle, we must continually improve the governance system under the principle resolve the problems at root and restore order from chaos. We need to uphold the Hong Kong SAR's constitutional order as enshrined in the Constitution and the Basic Law, as well as fully implement the new electoral system and the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. The National People's Congress, or the NPC, made the decision on improving the electoral system of the Hong Kong SAR on 11th of March last year. That is the 11th of March decision. On the 30th of March last year, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, or NPCSC, adopted the amended Annexes 1 and 2 to the Basic Law. To implement the NPC's 11th of March decision and the amended Annexes 1 and 2 to the Basic Law, the Improving Electoral System Consolidated Amendments Ordinance 2021 was passed by the Legislative Council, and the Hong Kong SAR government published the ordinance in Gazette on the 31st of May last year, which came into effect on the same day. Through establishing a democratic system that reflects the actual situation of Hong Kong, corresponds to the requirements of the one country, two systems principle, and manifests Hong Kong's characteristics, the improved electoral system puts in place solid institutional safeguards to ensure full implementation of the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. This is also conducive to enhancing the effective governance, thereby achieving good governance for public good and long-term stability and safety. The first two elections after improving the electoral system, namely the 2021 Election Committee Subsector Ordinary Elections, or ECSSOEs, and the 2021 Legislative Council General Election, were held smoothly on 19th of September and 19th of December last year. As the ECSSOEs, about 4,380 voters voted. The voter turnout was around 90%. At the Legislative Council General Election, about 1.35 million electors cast their votes on the polling day to return 90 Legislative Council members from 153 candidates of different background and different political spectrum. The successful implementation of the two elections is of great significance to Hong Kong and all members of the public. They expounded the characteristics of broad representation, fair competition, political inclusiveness, and balanced participation, opening a new chapter of good governance. They also laid down a sound foundation for the 2022 Chief Executive election to be held on the 27th of March this year. In preparation for the LCGE last December, we took stock of the experience gained from the ECC SSOEs last September and reviewed carefully the election procedures and workflows so as to ensure the fairness of the Legislative Council general election and to incorporate elements which would make the election more efficient and convenient for both voters and candidates. Subsequently, a number of improvement measures were implemented in the LCGE, which included increasing the number of ordinary polling stations to 630 and drastically increasing the number of ballot paper issuing desks to 6,200, representing a 10% and 122% increase as compared to the numbers in the 2016 Legislative General Election, respectively. The numbers are the highest amongst previous elections, which reduced the waiting time for voters. We set up 3 polling stations on the Hong Kong side of Hong Kong-Shenzhen boundary control points to enable electors who were in the mainland to return to Hong Kong to vote. On the polling day, over 17,000 voters cast their votes as the polling stations as the Hung Yuen Wai, Lo Wu, and Lok Ma Chau spur lines boundary control points. We have arranged training and practice sessions with simulated scenarios for electoral staff to get familiarized with detailed workflow and arrangements. We have also substantially increased the number of counting tables in the central counting stations, with designated counting zones and counting tables for each functional constituency. We have also separated the process of opening ballot boxes and checking electoral documents to streamline the procedures and ensure that the counting process could be completed and election results announced as early as possible. We have also widely implemented and enhanced the electronic poll register system and special queue arrangements used in the EC SSOEs last September. Overall speaking, the process of the poll during the LCGE on the 19th of December last year was conducted smoothly. Various electoral arrangements expounded the principles of openness, fairness, and honesty. Counting commenced immediately after the close of poll at 10:30 p.m. The initial results of the election committee constituency was announced at around 2 a.m. The entire counting process completed smoothly at 9:56 a.m. on the following day. It took around 11 hours, which is the earliest completion time in elections in recent years. I thank members for their opinions and suggestions to further improve the LCGE arrangements. Together with the Electoral Affairs Committee and the REO, we will continue to seriously take stock of the experience of the 2 elections and make enhancements and improvements, with a view to ensuring that the upcoming Chief Executive election to be held on the 27th of March will continue to be conducted smoothly in a fair, open, and honest manner, thereby fully implementing the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. Upholding the basic law of the HKSAR and swearing allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR are basic requirements for people administering Hong Kong and public offices, as well as their fundamental obligation and responsibility. This is an important foundation for ensuring the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. The Public Offices Candidacy and Taking Up Offices Miscellaneous Amendments Ordinance 2021 was gazetted on the 21st of May last year, which came into effect on the same day. It improves the oath-taking arrangements as required by the Basic Law and sets out the legal consequences a public officer has to face if he or she engages in conduct in breach of the oath after taking the oath and assuming office. It is also an important step for safeguarding the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong and is conducive to the full, accurate, and faithful implementation of one country, 2 systems. At the same time, the Improving Electoral System Consolidated Amendments Ordinance 2021, gazetted on the 31st of May last year, has provided for oath-taking requirements for members of the Election Committee. At present, the Chief Executive, Principal Officials, members of the Executive Council and the Legislative Council, judges and judicial officers at all levels of courts, Election Committee members, District Council members, and civil servants have taken their oath. The government is studying the oath-taking arrangements for other public offices, including members of statutory bodies, and will report to the Legislative Council once details are available. The national flag, national emblem, and national anthem are the symbols and signs of our country and must be protected by the law and respected by the people. The Council passed the National Anthem Ordinance and the National Flag and National Emblem Amendments Ordinance, respectively, in June 2020 and September last year. It provides for the implementation of 3 pieces of national legislation set out in Annex 3 of the Basic Law, that is, the National Anthem Law and the amended National Emblem and National Flag Law of the PRC, in Hong Kong through local legislation in accordance with Article 18 of the Basic Law. The regional flag and regional emblem are the symbols and signs of the Hong Kong SAR. It commands the protection of law and respect of the people. We agree with the views of the Legislative Council that suitable amendments should be made to the Regional Flag and Regional Emblem Ordinance for better alignment with the amended National Flag and National Emblem Ordinance, as well as with the National Anthem Ordinance. We plan to introduce an amendment bill to the Legislative Council in this legislative year. The Constitution and the Basic Law together form the constitutional basis of the Hong Kong SAR and provide the strongest safeguard for the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong. To ensure that the one country, two systems principle is fully and accurately implemented, we must strictly adhere to the Constitution and the Basic Law. The Basic Law Promotion Steering Committee will continue to take forward publicity and education on the Constitution and the Basic Law through diversified approaches so that members of the public have a comprehensive, profound, and accurate understanding of the Constitution and the Basic Law, and the community more actively engaged in the learning of them. Specific work include making full use of electronic media and online platforms, for example, thematic webinars and online workshops. Continuing to organize physical mobile promotion activities at district and school levels, sponsoring non-governmental organizations or community organizations to stage various promotional activities, or conducting research on the promotion of the Basic Law. President, once again, I thank members for their constructive comments made in the debate and the meeting of the panel on constitutional affairs last week. We will study them closely and continue to communicate and cooperate with members in full so as to implement the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong and ensuring good governance and long-term stability. President, I so submit. I implore members to support the policy address. Thank you, President.
事務局
Secretary for the Civil Service. President and members, first of all, I would like to thank members for their invaluable comments given in this session. The 2021 policy address focuses on development and paints a future for Hong Kong. It also put forward a number of new initiatives. We want to achieve good governance, implement the various measures that benefit the public, and also long-term development project. And we need to address social issues. So the SL government needs to improve its governance on 5 fronts. So one, including reorganizing the government structure, attracting talents to join the government as politically appointed officials, reviewing the selection and appointment mechanism for senior civil servants, advocating dedicated positions with specific responsibilities, and enhancing government's capability in information dissemination and public communication. Members put forward various invaluable views on these aspects. I will focus on management of the civil service in response to these views. Now, we want the civil service to be properly equipped to zealously embrace the opportunities and challenges of the new era, and also perform their role in implementing one country, two systems. The Civil Service Bureau will strengthen the main elements of management of the civil service, including recruitment, training, and the selection and appointment mechanism for senior civil service positions, and so on. Last year, we completed the exercise for existing civil servants and also new civil servants to sign the declaration to pledge allegiance to the Basic Law and the SAR. We will be strengthening civil service training. We will proceed with the Kwun Tong Composite Development Project, including the construction of the Civil Service College and other facilities. The Finance Committee approved funding for the project on the 8th of October last year. We plan to commence work today. We expect that the project could be completed in phases from 2026. I'm very much grateful to members for supporting the funding proposal. Before we identify the Kwun Tong site as the permanent site for the college, we already set up the college on the 9th of December last year. The temporary location is at the North Point Government Offices, that is the premise previously occupied by the former Civil Service Training and Development Institute. The facilities have been renovated and upgraded, and then we are also in the process of recruiting, doing in-service and open recruitment for the post of the head of the Civil Service College. We will then appoint the right person to take up this post. Apart from hardware, we also provide training courses for civil servants to enhance the software. There is training on 4 key areas, including national studies and the basic law, leadership development, innovation and technology applications, and international collaboration. We will map out the way forward for training in these various areas. There are also 4 new proposals on change and improving civil servants' understanding of the Constitution, basic law, and national security law. First, we're going to enhance training in this respect. In fact, government attaches great importance to such training, and we've been upgrading such training all along. Now, with the establishment of the Civil Service College and upon resumption of normal cross-boundary flow of people between Hong Kong and the mainland, we will continue to enhance training in this area, both in breadth and depth. We will establish a more systematic training framework and designate training programs for mandatory attendance so as to enhance the understanding of civil servants on our country's development and the Hong Kong SAR's constitutional order. On the front of national studies training, we will arrange for more middle and senior level civil servants to take part in national studies program or thematic visits in the mainland that suit their ranks. As the civil service staff exchange program will be extended to cover the mainland municipalities in the Greater Bay Area. This will provide our civil servants with the opportunity to experience more deeply the development of the GBA municipalities so as to enable them to play a more active role in the development of GBA in their respective area of work. Thirdly, we will enhance training for civil servants learning more about the country's foreign affairs through close collaboration with the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, OCMFA, in the SAR. This will enable them to act in better concert with the country's foreign affairs policy in handling the relevant areas of work. On the 17th of December 2020, the Civil Service College and OCMFA jointly held a thematic briefing session on international landscape and China's foreign relations, delivered by the Commissioner, Mr. Liu Kuang-yu. Starting from January 2022, the Civil Service College will run, in collaboration with the OCMFA, a series of monthly talks on the country's foreign affairs. The first talk was held on the 27th of January this year. The topic of the talk was in-depth study of Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy for a brighter future of Hong Kong. It was delivered by the Director General of Mr. Miao Deyu, and also we will start the master program in public policy that's jointly designed with the Peking University. The inaugural program will be launched in September this year. The duration of the program is 2 years, and the first year is to be attended at the Peking University. We also have annual sponsorship for senior civil servants to attend the Project of Hong Kong Public Administrative Talents program at Tsinghua Hospital at the Tsinghua University. And we are also reviewing and updating the assessment content of the basic law test to include the national security law in the scope of assessment. The new assessment content is expected to be incorporated in the basic law and national law security law test from mid-2022 onwards. On the review of a selection and appointment mechanism for senior levels of civil service, we have all along civil service appointments are based on the principle of open and fair competition. The most meritorious and the most suitable persons are selected to fill the post. And directorate civil servants are in leadership position. So in the new era, we need a team of people devoted and loyal to our country and Hong Kong, adept and policy making as well as execution, and driven by a strong sense of responsibility and commitment to serve the people of Hong Kong. We will we will continue to adhere to the principle of meritocracy. We will focus our work on a few areas. We will review and clearly delineate the requirements for director civil servants. We will review the appraisal arrangement of director civil servants. We will identify suitable posts and look into the feasibility of widening the scope of grades and ranks that could be considered for promotion, and to conduct in-service or open recruitment on a pilot basis. We will also consider appointing the reference directorate officers on civil service agreement terms and providing an appropriate level of remuneration package to encourage aspiring officers to apply for the post. We want to put the right person in the right post. With the promulgation of the law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and the improvement of the electoral system, we have restored to stability from chaos. We can now focus on economic development and improving people's livelihood. The civil service team is the backbone of the SL government. It plays a pivotal role in implementing one country, two systems. We will have more exchanges with members on civil service matters so we could work together to build a strong team of civil servants that could rise to the different challenges and seize upon the different opportunities in a new era. Thank you.
The second debate session ends. The Council now proceeds to the third debate session. For members who wish to speak in this session, please click on the raise hand feature of Zoom. The staff will jot down your names. The debate themes in this session is new impetus to the economy, integration into the national development, planning for the future, Northern Metropolis, increasing housing and land supply. The policy areas covered in this session have been set out on this page for members' easy reference. Ms. Yong Hoi Yen. Thank you, President. In the 2021